David?
Good afternoon.
Just us at the moment.
Well, that could be for a fast meeting because I can't say much on half of them, half the items.
The Calnell representative is coming for the Jefferson stuff.
Well, two of them are Jefferson.
Yeah. And I believe Teresa's coming. I believe Steve is coming, but getting people on time on the dot, not so easy.
Yep.
So based on a email thread from today, it looks like Daniel, your HPOZ guy, is on vacation again for 2 weeks.
He was on it this week. Yeah. He should be back for the next meeting.
Yeah, I think maybe just in time for that.
Yeah, we weren't going to have quorum anyway because I originally was supposed to be in Egypt this week. And
yeah,
then,
that was hard.
And then somebody else was supposed to be, so like it all worked out. And then my trip got canceled, but it still would have been Daniel and one other person would have been there. So
right.
Actually, I'm kind of glad that I'm not trying to fly this week.
Oh God, I think I don't want to be, well, I wouldn't want to be flying, hi Kevin, until the government is back in business.
Yeah, I'm cat sitting for somebody right now and they're supposed to be coming home Monday. I'm thinking, I wonder if they're going to get back.
Right, exactly. So Kevin, I think, and Steve and everybody, will probably wait another 2-3 minutes before we start.
Sounds good.
So, and Steve, I appreciate that you sent out those emails to try and prompt responses. I recognize you didn't get real responses, but you got semi-real responses. Oh, you're muted.
I'll be following up with her tomorrow.
Yeah, so I had originally been informed that so this is yet a different case, that there would be a public hearing in November for the other alcohol application. Oh, Colleen probably wants to hear what I just said.
Which other?
There's another alcohol application?
Yeah.
I know of two. I know the History Museum and the
History Museum. See, my brain not working so great. I had originally been told that the History Museum hearing would be in November, but I don't know. Hey, Elizabeth, face down. Thank you. She's not following doctor's orders.
All right.
All right. I'm not your mom. I know that. But still, I spotted it.
Well, I sent an email to the ZA's assistant regarding Circus Liquor, and I haven't heard back.
Right, and that triggered why I said that also I had been originally told that the History Museum would have a scheduled hearing in November for their alcohol request or events and alcohol requests, and it's not scheduled. So I don't know if it will be scheduled at the very last minute, but I think it requires a 21-day notice.
When were you told that?
Ooh, about a month ago.
Huh. So does anybody know if they've gotten their liquor license? Because
They can't have, the hearing is still not yet scheduled.
I thought it was the other way around though. I thought you had to get
Oh,
your
you mean
license and then you get your.
Oh, you're talking about the county or
state.
Whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't know. I don't.
Okay.
We're just chit chatting. We haven't even started.
Okay, because I asked the state liquor board to send me the file and they would not send me the file because it was pending.
Yeah.
Because apparently there was an objection
that somebody else
had made. I guess that's, I mean, I don't really know.
Well, that's really
piecing together, okay. But I made a public records request.
Right. Why don't we wait till we convene the meeting, because that's interesting information to discuss, and technically we shouldn't be discussing it until we can, because it's follow up to previous cases. Okay, thank you. Okay, anyway, I'm thinking it's 7:04. There's a lot of people here. And we should convene, the meeting. So I'm gonna do that. So good evening, everyone. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello to you too. My name is Laura Myers, and I'm the chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee for United Neighborhoods Neighborhood Council. I'm going to share the screen with our meeting agenda. And here we go. So the first item on the agenda is what we're doing now, and we'll get back to in a second, welcome and call to order. Then we will have general public comments. And then we're going to have a presentation about 3 different proposed projects in Jefferson Park, but they're all coming from the same applicant, Calnell Gardens, and they have some things in common and they are also different from each other. And then we're going to have a discussion and potentially a motion to do a community impact statement on the Small Lots Big Impacts Initiative, which we'll get to when we get to that. And then there's some new submittals, there's updates. We just started talking about something that we could then talk about under that thing and follow up to previous cases. So the main thing, and again, this is just to remind us all, everyone I see at the moment in the Zoom room is a stakeholder. But what we do here at UNNC is that we allow our community stakeholders to participate fully in our committee meetings, meaning not just being able to, have robust discussion, but they can make motions and they can also vote on the motions. Whatever we vote on here is a recommendation to our governing board. And the definition of a stakeholder was given to us by the LA City Council, and it's anyone who lives, works, owns a business, owns a property, attends a school, is the parent of a child who attends a school, worships, and or participates in a nonprofit 501c3 organization which has a brick and mortar footprint with building kind of thing, footprint within UNNC's boundaries. So we go through at the beginning of each meeting, and I'm gonna unshare the agenda so we can do this more efficiently. We go through at the beginning of each meeting, welcome introductions, and then we each identify ourselves if we are or are not a stakeholder. So I'm Laura Myers again. I live in Angeles Vista. I am a stakeholder. Colleen?
I'm Colleen. I live in Jefferson Park. I am also a stakeholder.
Correct. So I'm going to just call on you in the order I see you. David Sapper.
David Sapper, I live in Jefferson Park. I'm a stakeholder.
Steve Peckman.
Steve Peckman, I live in Jefferson Park. I'm a stakeholder.
Siobhan.
Ron O'Neill Schwenk. I live in Western Heights and I am a stakeholder.
Okay, Michael.
Michael Kimbrough. I sit on the UNNC board. I'm the loan representative from District 3, the Avenues, and I am a stakeholder.
Teresa.
Hi, everybody. I'm Teresa Masonette. I live in West Adams Avenues. I'm a stakeholder.
Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth Fenner, a homeowner live in the Avenues, stakeholder.
And Kevin.
Hi, my name is Kevin Scott. I don't live in the area. I live in Highland Park, and I am not a stakeholder, but I am here on behalf of the applicant for the 3 projects.
Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is general public comments on anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Steve.
Yes, you may remember in July, we wrote a letter to Representative Isaac Bryan about SB 79. I am asking again that it be posted on the UNNC website. SB 79 is not over.
It's still not there?
It's still not there. We're now 3 months out.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
think I've asked every meeting
Yeah.
I've attended.
Yeah, well, the problem is if it's still not there, that means about 5 other letters are also still not there.
It'd be
So,
great if all 5 letters could be posted on the
Yes,
UNNC website.
I am going to call Hunter when this meeting is over to see how this can happen. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other general public comments on items not on this agenda? Okay. Well, did everybody have a good Halloween? I guess I should ask. Yes, no, maybe? Busy? Okay, moving on.
Really busy.
Really busy.
We were
Okay.
out of candy by 8:20 again, and I bought twice as much. So
I'm still
Yeah.
eating mine.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, we were out of candy-ish. Here in the avenues, the participation, the number of kids or trick-or-treaters, including their parents, presumably exceeded 350. And we know that number because the Avenues Association, thank you very much, also hired a caterer to be here at the park and making hot dog plates to go, hot dogs, chips and drinks, 350 of them, and he ran out. So there you go. Okay, item 3 on our agenda is the review of 3. You're gonna reshare, I think. Review of 3 proposed projects in Jefferson Park from one applicant, hope I'm pronouncing this right, Kelnell Gardens. This development team has submitted, well, will be told, Kevin will tell us, make certainly more than 3 projects are in the hopper, but 3 within UNNC. At 2306 West Jefferson, which is a 100% affordable mixed-use building with 35 residential units. 2903 West Jefferson, which is a mixed-use commercial and housing building with 26 residential units, including 3 very low income, affordable income units. This is what's in the application package. Sometimes these things move around as staff looks at them. So again, we'll learn more. And 3644 11th Avenue, which we looked at with Kevin back in, I think, July, or February, I mean, a while back. Density bonus project, mixed use building with 3 commercial units and 25 residential units. So I'm going to stop this share. And Kevin, do I need to give you, I do, some sort of sharing ability, correct?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Do I need to request? Okay.
Make co-host.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so tell us who you are.
Yeah, I would be
And
happy.
we know why you're here because I asked you to be here, but tell them why.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm Kevin Scott. I'm from the office of Brian Silvera and Associates, and we are representing the applicant, Colonel Gardens LLC, for these 3 projects. Yeah, Laura, thank you again for asking me to be here. Happy to talk about these. As you mentioned, one of them I was here. I think you're right. I think it was February when we presented the one on 11th. And I'll get into all this, but that one on 11th, that one, I think at that meeting I had said that it was a density bonus project, but it might change to
Right.
project, and that has indeed happened. So I will go over all of that.
Perfect.
And I have a presentation that basically goes, fairly truncated, goes over all 3 of these projects. I can either stop after each one for questions or go through them all at once. It might make more sense for me to stop after each, because it's just a lot of details to keep in people's minds, but I'm open to whatever you think.
Are we looking at all 3 right now?
Yep.
Okay, so what do y'all think? Just pipe up because I can't see you anymore. But if
Are we making recommendations tonight?
we will be making recommendations or not. I mean, it just depends on what we decide to do. We are able to make recommendations tonight on 1, 2, 3, or none. And I also don't know the timeline for anything. And I don't know to whom we might be making recommendations, and Kevin's gonna tell us that. So I don't know, Kevin, it might be. I'm trying to figure out I think it's more efficient really to go through all of it.
Okay.
And then we can go back.
We can go back. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. That makes total sense. And
Laura, this is Steve.
Yeah.
Could I just make one comment here, which is, if I am reading this correctly, one of the 3 buildings is in the Jefferson Park HPOZ and so has different considerations than the other 2.
Well, and 2 of them are in the redevelopment area, and one of them is in the specific plan. So they all have interesting considerations. But that's why I think maybe if we just go through it and then we can just because then I'll have a better sense of what our timing is and we can set a time for each.
that makes sense. Yeah, and I'll go through all of that. And you're right. There are some interesting considerations with the HPOZ and the specific plan and the way that those interact with the types of projects these are. So I'm going to start with this screen. So this is a matrix that the city planning department has provided for basically their different types of density bonus programs, be they the state density bonus, the mixed income incentive program, or the affordable housing incentive program. And so this is the way that the city is, since CHIP was implemented in February, this is the way that the city is processing these types of cases, and it shows you what is ministerial and what is discretionary. And so I'll go over this first a little bit, and I think we're going to probably come back to it. But so the first project that I'm going to talk about is the 2903 Jefferson, and that is up here in this discretionary category. So that one is just using something I'm sure you've seen before, which is the state density bonus law. And it falls into this category because it both has waivers and it's requesting a bonus beyond 50%. So for this project, there will be both a hearing officer hearing, and then the decision maker will be the City Planning Commission. So that is one of the projects. Again, I think fairly straightforward from what you've seen before. These other 2 are, I don't know how familiar you are with the CHIP program, but I'll try to go over this a little bit here. So
Kevin, unless an individual here is familiar, we haven't really had a presentation, and I always think I'm really familiar with things, and I am not.
Sure. Because
it is brand new.
Okay, I will try to answer as many questions as I can about it. I've got a bit of time getting my head around it, but it's it's like a 100-page ordinance, so I don't think I can tell you everything, but I'll tell you as much as I can and what I understand these projects to be. So in blue, this is the project that I was here with in February, 3644 11th, and that project uses the mixed income incentive program. And I know this is a lot of language here, but within that, there's something called TOIA, or the Transit Oriented Incentive Areas Program. Basically, that's TOC. If you remember the TOC program, Transit Oriented Communities Program, this is supplanting TOC. So TOIA is CHIP's update to that. And so that basically says that if you use the base incentives provided by the CHIP program and the menu of incentives, I can go over what all that means. Your project, basically what you do is if you are within the bounds of the program, you go straight to LADBS. You basically bypass planning entirely, and you get your building permits through LADBS. And so it's ministerial in that way. Now, this project, as I mentioned, is a little bit different because it is in the specific plan. So there is a specific plan project compliance. That portion of the project is discretionary. The incentives are ministerial. It's sort of a strange thing, and I'll get into this a little bit more, but that's the general structure, is that the part of it is ministerial and part of it is discretionary. The last one, 2306 Jefferson, uses the AHIP program, the Affordable Housing Incentive Program. That's another part of CHIP, and that works in the same way, where if you use the base incentives plus the menu of incentives, you are able to just process it straight ministerially through LEDBS. However, and this is for 100% affordable projects. So one way that you might think about this is, it's my impression that this program is essentially planning's answer to ED1. They were like, okay, we see what you're doing with ED1. We're going to like change this, make this a little bit more official and include it, wrap it into CHIP. So these are 100% affordable projects. The affordability level is the same as the way it works with ED1. This one, though, is in the HPOZ. So there is a HPOZ certificate of compatibility that has to get signed off on. So while the project itself is ministerial, that certificate of compatibility is that is a discretionary, also a director's decision. Neither of these, the blue one or the green one, are public hearings, but they're discretionary through the director of planning.
I'm going to interrupt.
Yep.
HPOZ, the certificates do require a public hearing at the HPOZ board level. That board makes a recommendation to the director. It is a director thing, but the public hearing component is required.
You're right. There is a public aspect. I guess I'm
yeah. I mean, there's not there's
decision.
not a hearing officer type hearing.
Right. There, yeah. The decision itself is made by planning, but there is the opportunity for public input in that.
Correct.
Yeah. And so we have been to the HPOZ one time to the board. They asked for some changes, which we're in process right now. Also, I just want to mention that last project, the green one, we have not yet submitted it to planning. So it's a ways up here. It's just been to the HPOZ. So we're working on getting the sign off. There are some elements of both how that HPOZ sign off and the specific plan project compliance sign off work that are a little bit complicated, but I'll get into those in a minute. Okay, so hopefully, and this is a lot, and I'm happy to go back over any of this.
Well, no, it's really good because we have other projects that aren't these three that are also throwing this language around. So wanting to know, but it's interesting as well that, as you say, planning's answer to ED1, but ED1 is not allowed in HPOZs. So planning's answer to ED1 may not have recognized that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, this is allowed in HPOZs, right? This was voted by the city council and adopted.
Right. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So that is this ministerial discretionary matrix, and I'll start first with the discretionary project. Again, these are going to be real brief. I think I'll just be happy to take questions.
Yeah, let's just go through them and then we can come back to the individual ones.
Okay, so this project is 2903 Jefferson. So that is on the northwest corner of Jefferson and 9th. It is on a lot that is currently vacant. This picture, there used to be some kind of like nursery or something on there, but there were no permanent structures. I was by there recently and it's completely vacant. There's nothing on there right now. And yeah, this is what used to be there, the nursery. It's 26 units. 3 of those are very low incomes, 50% AMI units. Mix of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. 6 stories. And then this is in an AB 2097 area, so no parking is required. And we're providing 2 parking spaces in conjunction with the commercial units, the retail units on the ground floor. One of those units will have a frontage on Jefferson and the other one on 9th. And so these are the density bonus incentives. I won't read through them that closely, but I would be happy to answer questions. So there's an open space reduction, a height increase, an FAR increase, relief from the transitional height requirements, relief from the loading zone requirements, and then a yard reduction, a 23% yard reduction on the west side. And again, so this is a discretionary process. There will be a hearing officer hearing and then city planning commission hearing. Those are going to be a ways out. We just filed this like last week. So that's that project. This next one is the one that I was here before with. So this is the one that is using the TOIA program, the one that's supplanting TOC basically. And this one is on the corner of Expo and 11th. The lot has like a small warehouse on it right now and some storage for some vehicles. It's kind of this wedge-shaped lot. This is what current pictures of it. And this one is 25 units with 4 very low income units. 3 ground floor commercial units. Those are all on Expo, 6 stories. This one originally we were going to provide, I think, 6 parking spaces and then not have a loading zone. We changed that to just providing 2 parking spaces and providing the loading zone in the rear.
Kevin, can you just step back for a second?
Sure.
Apologies, I didn't attend your first presentation regarding this project. So I think you said that this was 11th Avenue at Expo.
Yeah.
But the address here is 504. So does it span?
No, that's a
a
typo.
comment.
I did some copy pasting and I was a little sloppy, so I apologize for that.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you for pointing that out, though. Okay, cool. So yeah, that one is there. So this one.
Yeah, Kevin, you can't get away with anything
I
at
know.
UNNC.
Eagle eyes out here. I appreciate it. So this uses the transit-oriented incentive area. So it's close to the two train stations, the Crenshaw, is that right? Crenshaw and
Crenshaw K line, yeah, Crenshaw K line.
Yeah, and the E line. They both have a station right there. So because of that, it qualifies for a 22-foot height increase, a 4.2 to 1 max FAR, 110% density bonus, reduced yards, and then the loading zone thing was basically in order to keep the height at 67 feet, we're lowering the clearance of the loading zone. Typically, a loading zone is required to be 14 feet tall, so we're lowering that to like 12 feet, or maybe 11 feet to be able to get the overall height down, if that makes sense. So that's also an incentive. So all of those things are part of the ministerial process, right? All of those things. The TOIA program, the Mixed Income Incentive Program, allows you to do. But as I mentioned, there is still the director's determination for the specific plan project compliance. This is a little weird because, a number of these things aren't in compliance with the specific plan, but CHIP supersedes those, right? So the height increase, the density, FAR, all of that stuff might not fly with the specific plan by itself, but CHIP supersedes those. So basically, in this case, the specific plan project compliance is more aesthetic things. There's some requirements about like glazing on the storefront, like a minimum amount of pedestrian entrances or glazing. Some stuff about how light is directed. Yeah, so basically those are what is discretionary. The density, the parking, the height, none of that is part of that director's determination. Okay, and then this last one is 2306 Jefferson. So this is the 100% affordable project. It is on the south side of the street on Jefferson near 3rd. This project is on, essentially it's a parking lot / storage lot right now. You can see it. This is on the left, that's from the view from Jefferson. And then on the right, that's the view from the alley. This one's 35 units, a mix of studios and ones. There's 2 commercial units. There is no parking provided on this project. And I can go into some of that here. So this one's a little bit complicated the way that it works. It's kind of a combination of the AHIP program and a law that part of the state density bonus law is AB 2334. And one of the provisions of that law says that for 100% affordable projects, you're allowed 3 extra stories and unlimited density as long as you are in a what they call a low VMT area. VMT is vehicle miles traveled. Basically just means it's like there's access to transit. It's not quite the same standard as AB 2097. It's a little bit lower standard, but there is still access to transit. So as long as it's in one of those areas, the state law gives you the extra stories and the density. And AHIP gives you access to no parking. So that's why this project is not in an AB 2097 area, but AHIP for 100% affordable projects, you're not required to provide parking for your residential units. And you are required to provide it if you're a mixed use project for your commercial units, but you can use an incentive. You're allowed 4 incentives. And so one of the incentives we're using is to get rid of the parking requirement for the commercial. So this project, again, all of these incentives, the density, the height, the yards, the transitional height, all of that is ministerial, right? This is using the CHIP AHIP program, but it still requires, like we said, the HPOZ certificate of compatibility. That's a director's decision. And but the scope of the HPOZ is limited. So the HPOZ can comment about things like the facade, windows, lighting, trees, stuff like that. They're not able to comment about, again, parking, height, density, any of that stuff. So as I said, we've been to the HPOZ board once before for this project. They asked for a couple changes. We're working on incorporating those right now. Again, those are more things about the facade, colors, stuff like that. And then we'll be going back to them. And then if they give their sign off, then that goes to Daniel Mata. It works for, he's like the HPOZ planner. I'm not sure if you guys have worked with him before, but yeah. It'll go to him, and then he will transmit that, and it'll be a director's decision for that, the HPOZ certificate of compatibility. Okay, so that was a ton of stuff. I will try to answer questions that I'm sure that you have as best as I can.
Well, Laura, have a ton of questions, and I'm sure other people do. Maybe we can go in reverse order since you're right there at that AB 234. My understanding, because we've been working on a whole unrelated project, but doing a very deep dive with planners in the council office on AB 2334. but I understand it also intersects AHIP. I mean, in other words, a different project that's also claiming both these things. So my understanding of reading the actual legislation is that essentially it uses some weird language, but it goes back to 2022 or so to get the language where it does not allow any waivers at all, that waivers have to be redefined as incentives, but it allows up to either 7 or 8 incentives. I can't tell from what you're showing us.
Sure.
How many incentives and waivers combined do you have? Because the waivers would have to be deemed incentives.
Sure. So yeah, I believe that it says 4 incentives is what you're allowed. And so
Well, yeah, well, it depends on different affordability levels and et cetera, et cetera. But I'm seeing kind of more than that, maybe, but I'm not sure.
So one thing that changed with CHIP implemented, all of your yards get combined into one single incentive.
Correct. Yeah,
So,
pisses me off, but yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's one.
right. So these are the 4 incentives.
Got it.
There are base incentives, and then
Uh-huh.
these are the 4 incentives that you get beyond the base incentives. The base incentives you just get no matter what, the density, the extra height, all of
Parking.
that. That's just basically for if you qualify for the program, you qualify for those incentives. The 4 incentives that you get are on top of that. So those are what there.
But what I'm asking is, in addition to what we're looking at, is this project asking for any additional waivers?
No waivers.
Okay, and then I don't remember, I mean, there's just too many projects all of a sudden. Was there a required street dedication on Jefferson for this one?
I don't believe so. I'll have to double check and get back to that.
Right, because I think we would prefer, having just said, no, don't ask for waivers, is that if there is one, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Even if that's another waiver, and use it for open space though, not for more building. Use it to, allow us to have bigger trees, right?
Typically, our experience with a lot of dedications these days is that the city is kind of changing the way that they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
There is a basically there's a thing that you file right off the bat called a PLUR, preliminary land use. Can't remember what the R stands for, but anyway, that tells you if a dedication is required, and it's kind of based off of like, okay, is the street the designated width that it's supposed to be? And basically what happens is, most often, is that something will show up in that preliminary thing, and then BOE will actually do an investigation, and they'll be like, oh, never mind, we're not actually going to require
Right. Well, and I see Steve's hand is up. Well, I do know that Jefferson on the north side, this one's on the which side?
South.
This one's on the south. On the north side, they're typically asking for 3 feet. So I don't know if they're also asking for 3 on the south, or somehow that already got put in. But in general terms, because there is actually a council motion to get rid of this, and in fact, I was told that when our South LA and West Adams, Baldwin Hills, Lamert community plans, both of them were done, both Jefferson and Washington, in theory, were redefined such that they would not require, they were reduced in whatever they're called. So to from primary to secondary, whatever it is, to avoid having street dedication. So I don't remember, one of these 3 projects did have a dedication. It might have been 2903. But it struck me as, let's just have a bigger parkway. So
I do believe 2903 has a dedication. Originally. I think that they probably won't end up requiring it, but.
Okay, and then this one is 100% affordable. Again, I'm moving to Steve right after that, but I believe it was primarily low income and then moderate.
Yeah, so the standard is the same as 81. So it's 80%.
I understand, but our standard is we would really prefer to have projects that just like your other two, that at least address our housing needs. And we don't have a lot of housing needs for people earning, is it now $85,000 and up?
Something like that.
Yeah, so we would just kind of ask that you might, not you, but your client consider, just as they were very nice to give us VLI and the other two, maybe a couple of VLIs in this one. Just saying. Steve, you have your hand up. And then I'll come back to you, Pete. Steve.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a few questions, since we're starting on the 2306 Jefferson. The first is, as you said, you had presented this to the HPOZ board and they had suggested some modification. But in the paperwork that I saw in the folder, I didn't see any changes based on what an HPOZ board would likely recommend. Are you presenting to us what you presented to the board, or are you presenting post-board with the recommended changes?
This does not include the recommended changes. The board meeting just happened like a couple weeks ago or something, so that we're still incorporating them.
Okay, my understanding is the board meeting was more than a couple weeks ago, and one of the concerns expressed was that, and I would agree with this, is that the building doesn't reflect any consonance with the HPOZ plan. And so it seems to me that if you're going to try to implement recommendations of the board, it's going to require some significant modification to at least the facade design. And I don't see how we could possibly opine on this project without seeing those changes. Furthermore, I think you said in your presentation that the HPOZ cannot comment on the height, but actually height is part of the HPOZ plan, and it's very specifically called out. So why are you saying they can't comment on the height?
CHIP supersedes that requirement.
Yeah, it's interesting that somehow, which is contravention perhaps of what we all understand state laws say, that any new housing ordinance of any sort would supersede specific plans. So HPOZ is one kind of specific plan. Specific plan is a kind of specific plan. And in theory, based on the broad state law, specific plans are supposed to be the maps that overlay on top of everything else. And it sounds like, we're not going to have an argument about this, sounds like the way CHIP and AHIP have been, designed is to overlay, be the last layer, overlay on top of what's supposed to be the last.
Okay. I'll just make a few more comments. I'm sure other people want to comment on this project and maybe the others. You didn't really show it in the context of the neighborhood, but this building essentially is aligned on the street with 1- and 2-story buildings, and it backs into single-story building neighborhood without any transitional height in the back.
Excuse me, guys, can we put a picture of that, the project we're talking about, so we can
Yeah,
keep
maybe
track?
I could put a picture of it. Could I share?
No, there it is.
Thank you.
And this is like,
It doesn't really show it though in line with anyway.
I
So
understand.
I have to say that in members of the community that I've spoken with about this project, I think they feel that the word would be insulted by it, which is that it really is disrespectful to the people who live and work here in terms of its size, scaling, and massing, which is totally inconsistent with the surrounding neighborhood. And it seems to us that you have, and your client have, a total disregard for the people who are already living here. And I would hope at the very least, given that disrespect, that you would not give the HPOZ plan short shrift in terms of at least the street-facing design of the building, which at this point is totally asymmetrical and inconsistent with the HPOZ plan. I mean, it looks to me like no one even looked at the HPOZ plan when they designed this building. So at least the people in the community that I've spoken with, which are quite a few at this point, they find this building to be quite insulting and an affront to the community.
Okay. So flipping it to the positive if possible, wouldn't the broad commercial design of that is in the HPOZ preservation plan, wouldn't that the first 2 stories that's right now showing in gray, sort of quasi brick, shouldn't it look a lot more like the building almost adjacent to it? A
Yes.
more feel?
Yes,
You
should
know,
have more of
and-
the streetcar commercial look.
Right, and then the stories 3, 4, 5, 6 should be stepped back a little bit from that.
As well as the windows. There's all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff that's called out
Right,
in the
but I mean, in
plan
other words,
regarding the
but-
design.
What we saw in Harvard Heights, not great, I mean, it wasn't really successful, but what everybody calls that wedding cake design where the stupid, I mean, you know, where it's like goes up and then goes in and then goes up again. I'm not real fond of that when they are told to do it on all 3 sides. Cause I mean, it just looks kind of weird, but that's a more proper implementation of the commercial infill design guidelines.
Yeah, well, from the community point of view, this is really inconsistent with the plan. And to say that only a couple things are needed to be changed
No, I didn't say
is
that.
not my, no, that's what Kevin said, is not my understanding of what was discussed at the board. In fact, my understanding of what was discussed at the board was that the developer was asked to go back and review the plan and redo the project consistent with the plan.
Right, well, there's definitely a whole chapter on commercial and mixed use infill design and I'm going to assume that they'll have to do that. Maybe I'm being a little Pollyanna here, but I'm going to assume they're gonna have to redesign at least those pieces of it.
Yeah.
But it's not Kevin, he's not the architect or the person building the project, he's the person who's agreed to come meet with us.
He's the messenger, so I'm hoping
Yeah,
the message gets
I know.
sent back.
Yeah, I do recommend that you reach out to Daniel Mata. He's been the person that we've been working with, and I think that he can best explain the way that the HPOZ review works with.
Yeah.
with
Well, Kevin.
I'm sorry, I know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little insulting. I've been working with Daniel for many years. I was one of the people who actually created the HPOZ plan that's in use in Jefferson Park. So I know how it's used and how it's supposed to be used.
I'm speaking specifically about how it interacts with Chip.
Well, I'm speaking about the design of your building.
Oh my goodness. You gotta stop.
Yeah, okay, we're not trying to be here to ream out Kevin. Because he's just here to bring us the project that his client has presented at this point. Steve, I do agree with you because you're not the only person in this Zoom room who helped write that plan, as you know. And in fact, Colleen is here, who really helped. And I did a huge amount of work on the commercial infill chapter. So, you know, you have a unique preservation plan. It's not one of the 16 one size fits all templates. It's the next one, and we got to do this whole great commercial chapter. So they'll have to comply with that. And I'm gonna say, except insofar as height is concerned, it's been a long time since height is something the HPOC can comment on, any HPOC, because of state laws that have intervened. Okay, so Colleen had her hand and Elizabeth has her hand.
Elizabeth had hers up
I know.
first.
And Elizabeth
You want me to go first?
gets to go first, and she will not be able to turn on her video.
Thank you. I'm recovering from eye surgery, so it's not a pretty look. I just want to say thank you for coming here. Yes, I look forward to subsequent versions of this and other buildings. I'm going to tell you that I was at a Sustainability Alliance meeting on Sunday where we talked about retrofitting, properties for heat. And so while I like the green on the top, I really would have liked to see some awnings for shade and or some solar panels. I think we could get more creative, and I think it could be sort of more charming and more attractive if there were some strategically put, nicely put awnings that were also solar panels. It's so much easier to put them in first to design good, strong, efficient, clean, cooling systems rather than retrofit it later as it gets hotter and hotter. Yeah, so the fact that there's no parking is a challenge, I would say, to our streets. The fact that you are right across the street from a park and a public library seems like that. I think that this building particularly, I won't weigh in on all the buildings, but this particular building is single unit. So it's not for families that would really benefit from the access to the park and the library. If there were any changes possible in that realm, I'd be excited about that. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to be discussing that. I respect everybody here and their comments. And that's all I have to say. Back to you.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
And Colleen?
Well, I guess the first thing I want to say is just overall, regarding all these projects, I personally love to see all these housing projects. They're very much needed. And, we have had some other projects come before us recently that are office space, and they make me frown because I want to see housing projects. So that part is great. Regarding this particular project, unfortunately, I have to meet Steve and raise him. It's not just insulting, it's hostile to the community. And I'm not trying to be insulting. This is just really an objective opinion. The community has worked very, very hard to establish an HPOZ for this community. This building is smack dab in the middle of not just an HPOZ, but a National Register district. And we can talk all we want about meeting the HPOZ design guidelines, but I'm telling you, as a federally qualified architectural historian, that there is no way to make a 6-story building in the middle of a 1-story bungalow district meet the standards or meet any design guidelines. So we can, I guess at the margins, we can do this and do that, but there's no way credibly to make this building compatible. And I understand it's state law. Just because we can do things because they're legal does not make them correct or ethical. Because we can make the most amount of money doesn't mean that we should, and that we should take advantage and impose upon others in ways that benefit ourselves and hurt others. So I would love to see housing on this particular vacant lot, which is a crummy parking lot, but a 6-story building it's hostile. I can live with no parking, it's crummy, but I can live with it. I can live with no setbacks, it's crummy. I can live with no open space. The height is outrageous. That's it.
All right. Are there any other comments, questions? Okay.
Could I just make one quick comment?
Sure.
I'm in concurrence with Steve, and I confess I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name.
Colleen.
Colleen, yes. The height is ridiculous, and in my experience and opinion, the no parking part of it is actually the most egregious violation, regardless of what the building looks like. And everyone's talked about that at length, and I happen to agree. But the no parking part of it, I ask anybody who has ever tried to rent an apartment in Koreatown how that's working out for them, not having any parking. And yes, just because it is legal and you can do it, that doesn't mean that you should. And I look at all the problems that Koreatown, which I'm in Western Heights, so I'm right at the southern southwestern tip of Koreatown here. But looking at what that does to not only apartment to the rental situation there, but also what it does to the home and condo ownership situation over there. Looking at how it impacts prices and also how it impacts petty crime, et cetera. I don't think that just because you can build it without parking, that doesn't mean you should. And yes, it's in a major transit corridor. Newsflash, just because it's on a major transit corridor, this is LA, and that doesn't mean that everybody's not going to have a car. What it means is they're going to park them on the street, and they're going to be on the street in front of everybody's houses here, and they're just going to be a target for theft, et cetera. So that's my 2 cents on that.
And I just want to quickly add to that on the parking situation. It's primarily alleys in this neighborhood. So homeowners and people who are living in single family buildings or duplexes in this neighborhood are parking on the street. They don't have driveways. So when you do have no parking, it does create pressure on existing residents. And like I said, I can kind of live with that. Yeah, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously there have been many economic studies that talk about how the construction of parking structures impacts the affordability of construction of the building itself. So, it's a push-pull, but what has also been happening in neighborhood after neighborhood is a building like this goes in, and whoever is the elected representative supports the adjacent neighborhoods in getting overnight parking restrictions. So that again squeezes the actual occupants of these buildings because they can't end up parking overnight in the adjacent neighborhoods. Their address is not on the right, anyway. So
right, and I understand that they're cheaper to build this way because you don't. I understand that they're cheaper to build this way because you don't have to go digging down. But ultimately, I think maybe what I'm reacting to is the fact that buildings like this are a blatant excuse to extract value out of this neighborhood and out of this community. And it goes away from the community forever. We don't get that back. What we get in return is a 6-story building that's a giant eyesore that doesn't actually solve our housing problems for the reasons Colleen shared. It's not a family building, it's single units. And the building eventually gets sold, but all these problems come with it in terms of crime and parking, et cetera. And all of that value that they've created, developers walk away with it, and we get stuck holding the bag. That's kind of where I am with it.
I see Marina's hand, but let me, for clarity, this particular applicant have long roots in this community and have their headquarters in this community, not in Jefferson Park, but on Washington Boulevard. So this is historically doesn't predict the future, but this is not a company that's just building and taking the money and running. They own property and they live and operate out of here. So
respectfully, the building in its current form doesn't indicate
Siobhan,
that.
I'm just saying, don't make assumptions about what they're gonna. I mean, we don't know. We don't have crystal balls. That's all. I mean, they're not taking money from us, is what I'm saying. They are us. Kevin doesn't live here, but they're headquartered here and have been here for
respectfully, Laura, looking at what's happening in the area immediately around me, respectfully, I disagree.
With the facts,
and I can point to all sorts of examples of where that's happening right now or has happened.
I'm not disagreeing, Siobhan. I mean, I am trying to chair this meeting and being a moderator and neutral. This particular applicant is not one who is historically building things, selling them, and leaving, taking their profit from the community. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say it again. Marina has her hand up. Michael has his hand up. It is now 8 o'clock.
David Jeffers.
And David.
I just have a comment quickly.
No, oh, he does. David, your hand is so faintly colored compared to the others. So I think, David, you must have had your hand up first after Marina, but before Michael. But again, it's 8 o'clock and we have 2 more of these projects to discuss, maybe less robustly, and other things on the agenda. I just want to point that out. Marina.
Yes, hello. I just want to throw my full 100% support to what Stephen said, Colleen said, and Siobhan said, 100%. I also want to point out something that the developer of this project perhaps is not quite familiar with, is that parking is already completely impacted in our neighborhood to the point that people are illegally parking on their front yards. These are the residents, right? The residents who live here cannot find parking, so they illegally park on their front yards. So whenever I hear of another building this size, of which we've all said is completely out of scale, going up with no parking, it just sends shivers because I don't know where these cars are going to go. That's my comment. Thank you.
David.
Yeah, just a couple of things to corrections of things that were said. One, that this is a project on a high volume transit corridor. It's not. Jefferson is not considered a high volume transit corridor. And this project would be more than half a mile away from the 2 that are, which would be Western and Crenshaw. So neither of this building does not fall into any of the high volume transit project definitions. Also, as far as the presentation that was made at the HPOZ, it was a consultation. It has not been submitted to the HPOZ yet. And in fact, as part of the consultation, and I'll read strict, because I'm on the HPOZ board, I can only kind of talk about what was said at the board in a public hearing. One of the considerations, or one of the items that the board did recommend, is that they felt at least an additional consultation is necessary before it is submitted, to see that our recommendations have been taken into consideration before it's submitted. The first item that, if I look at the notes, the first item, to Steve's point, that was discussed is that we recommended that the builder look at the plan in section 11.3, because we felt that the project as previously submitted did not take into consideration anything in that section. So just wanted to point those things out.
Thank you.
Can you just clarify the section 11.3 of the
HPOZ, or correct?
Yes.
The HPOZ, the approved HPOZ plan, section 11.3 spells out that's commercial buildings, and what the guidelines. And we felt that the building, as it had been submitted, as Steve mentioned, completely ignored that section.
Okay. So, David, does that mean chapter 11?
Chapter 11.
Section 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And we're not, Michael, and then
real quick. Kevin, sorry about all this. I know you probably didn't sign up for this tonight. But and it's probably a good thing you don't live in the neighborhood. Doesn't sound like people are very receptive to your presentation. But with regard to that, and I may have missed this, I'm just curious, what part do you actually play with the developer, and all this input that you're receiving tonight? How will it be handled, and how will you carry water back to the developer, and will it make a difference?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm the developer's representative. I work for a land use consultant, Brian Silvera and Associates. Developers are our clients. We file the projects on behalf of them with the city, and then do the outreach. So that's.
So you're not actually a part of the organization itself. You're an outside consultant.
Yeah. I don't have any stake in this project other than they hire us. Yeah. And so, I mean, as far as like what can happen here, I mean, I think that the HPOZ is really that is what can be, again, that's the discretionary part of this project. So I'm going to take all of this back. And then, as I mentioned, we'll go back to the HPOZ And as I said, we're still working on incorporating the design changes, and I don't have a new rendering, so I regret that. But once we do that, we'll go back to the HPOZ.
And just for clarity for everybody, UNNC's longstanding position is that it is the HPOZ board and not UNNC, which handles the design, the HPOZ/design consultation. And we come in after that, but also look at land use components to it. So, I may end up at that hearing, but I'm just adding, I don't know enough about this project for me to input any particular land use thing, but we would not be voting tonight because the HPOZ has not, A, we don't have a final plan, but B, the HPOZ has not yet taken an action. So the HPOZ action will be to make a recommendation to the director. In the end, that's what they'll do. So they'll have a consultation. Hopefully they'll have another consultation as they requested, and then there will be a scheduled public hearing conducted at an HPOZ board meeting. And the HPOZ board itself will make a recommendation to the director based on the board members' own expert interpretation of the Jefferson Park HPOZ plan. So they'll have to make findings, etc. And at that point, and maybe soon thereafter, not waiting for the director's decision, UNNC itself may also weigh in, but it will be after the HPOZ board has voted to make its recommendation. Steve, do you have?
I just
anything
wanted to
add
clarify.
that?
I just wanted to clarify your last point, Laura. So this project post HPOZ board will be seen again by this committee?
Most likely, but
I think that's very
then we're
important.
but it's gonna depend on timing, and honestly, it's gonna, with a deep sigh, depend on, in good faith, the mayor and Council District 10 appointing members to the HPOZ board so that we don't end up having another situation with quorum issues such that they don't hold a public hearing.
Right, but that's a different issue. So
And I'm gonna say, and between now and then, I'm gonna have a serious conversation with Council District 10 regarding how they did not do what they've done in the past with other HPOZs when there was a quorum issue and they didn't have the forum of the board to hear 2037 West Jefferson, different project.
right.
Every other HPOZ facing that situation, and even this one in the past, and West Adams Terrace in the past, when they didn't have a quorum or didn't have an appointed board, the planning department held a public hearing so the community still could weigh in. And they didn't follow their own pattern and procedures. And I'm gonna absolutely have a conversation with Council District 10 to make sure that doesn't happen again. So
would be
once
great.
there should be a hearing on this.
My question is more focused on the UNNC board and this committee's, I consider, civic obligation to provide recommendation about this building to the board so that the board can make a statement. So given that all those things that you said, is there something that we need to do tonight to ensure that this committee has a voice?
No, because this is not the final submission. We can't vote when it's not a
Well,
final.
but you just spent 3 minutes talking about how planning has circumvented these processes in the past.
But this is not, unless Kevin had just said, we're not making changes. He did not say that. He said they're working on a changed design, correct? Kevin?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
So-
I just want to make sure that this committee has an opportunity to make recommendations to the board.
Right, obviously, we're gonna have to track it really closely based on the experience we just had with the other situation. And based on, unfortunately, Daniel's on and off continued absences as well. So, there's stuff going on that needs solving. And the quorum at the board, the planners, whatever's going on, repeated absences. We need to track this closely to make sure it doesn't suddenly show up, at the director without anyone knowing.
Laura?
Yes,
If I
sir.
might just add in conclusion to Kevin, it may be to your advantage in the next time you meet with us to actually have someone from the company there. I know negotiating is to go to defer to a higher authority, which takes some heat off of your developer. But politically, I would recommend someone actually from the firm be available to speak to and meet with the committee. That's all.
Yeah, this committee or the HPOZ?
Both. But in in speaking specifically about this meeting in this forum, because there is hostility they should be aware of.
Okay.
That's all.
No, I heard you. Okay.
I'd be happy to meet with them. I would welcome that opportunity.
Okay. Okay, sorry about this, Kevin, because there's 2 more projects. Can we go backward time here? Do you guys want to look at the one on 11th? I mean, if we just go backwards order.
Does time permit?
But again, we need to be done with both of them by 8:30 because we definitely have to get to our item number 4.
So I have a comment about the one on Expo and 11, 2 comments. As I recall in the previous presentation of this, I think that the general consensus was that this was a better opportunity because it's on a commercial lot surrounded by other commercial entities. But as I recall, wasn't there a discussion about the use of the alley and the dead end alley? And was that addressed?
That's right.
Right, and also, given that Kevin, I'm a little confused. Wasn't the original application withdrawn and this is a new one, but it's really similar? Is that what's going on?
That's correct. Yeah. Originally,
And we did talk about using the alley somehow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the thing about the alley is, the idea would be there would really only be access from the south. And there are 2 parking spaces for cars and a loading zone there. So I think that I don't think that they're worried about it needing to be a through alley for such little need for access.
Do you recall, sorry, because we've dealt with so many projects since then, as have you, do you recall why we wanted to utilize the alley? Because I don't.
Isn't there a site plan associated with this, Kevin?
Yes.
I can pull up a plan set if you want.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, kind of.
So issues arose about the ability to actually successfully use the alley because of how it's oriented with the dead end.
Mm-hmm.
Along with those issues was, of course, the parking issue with commercial spaces and how difficult that will be for commercial entities to make it a successful run without any parking.
Well, we did talk about that, but I don't know that it has anything to do with the alley. That's what I'm not remembering.
It's a separate issue.
Okay. So the parking is off the alley.
Yeah.
I see.
This is the alley. These are the 2 parking required spaces, and this would be the loading zone.
Got it.
So with the dead end, though, people getting in it are going to be going in and out in the same direction, right?
Yeah, from the
The
south.
alley. How will that be? How wide is the alley?
I believe it's 20 feet, but I would have to.
Okay, let me stop everybody. Please do not use the chat to make comments. Not allowed in public meetings on Zoom for the city. Thank you. Okay.
As I recall, part of the alley discussion was the safety of ingress and egress down the same pathway.
Okay, I don't recall any of it, but you're right. And I can easily recall it because we are recorded from then. So what I will do, Steve, is maybe not tomorrow, but in the next few days, I will pull up the recording. I mean, the AI, the transcription, send it to you and send it to Kevin, send it to me, obviously. and see what the heck it was that we were talking about. How's that? That's as best we can. I can't pull it up here. Okay. Anything else on this project? So what is the timeline, Kevin, on it being a, process by the city?
Sure. Yeah, it's going to be a guess on my part here. So the planner, Isaiah Ross, is working on it right now. We've been going back and forth. He has not given me a strict timeline yet. If I had to guess, again, because this is the specific plan project compliance, that's planning's piece. The height, density, that's all goes straight to LADBS. I would guess something like 6 months, but I don't know.
So not urgent that we make a decision tonight if we were going to make a recommendation direct to Isaiah, which is all we could do. But there's no reason to do that tonight, especially since we don't remember what it was we had asked for vis-a-vis the alley. So I will pull up that stuff. Steve, you and I can have a robust discussion about whether or not we need to bring this back quickly or not quickly after we look at what we said all the way back in February. So this is just taking forever. I mean, is this normal that you're talking about a project that'll have taken more than a year with one planner dealing with one specific plan compliance?
So a couple comments on there. One, I know that I believe Isaiah has just a ton of projects in his pipeline right now, and so
no doubt. I mean, he's the planner for everything, the CPIO, the specific plan.
Yeah, for sure. But it's taking longer than is my experience in other plan areas. Another thing, because CHIP is new, and we had to figure out how to actually change it from a density bonus project to a CHIP project, because planning was figuring out, okay, they've written this thing, how are we actually going to implement it? It's taken a long time. And then because we've tried to, there have been a number of changes with how CEQA applies to infill projects. And yeah, so there's been a lot that has slowed this project down. I hope it's less than 6 months, but I don't know. It's been longer than I assumed that it would be already. So.
And then let me ask you one other thing. For TOC projects, they're technically only appealable by adjacent residents. Is that also true for what do you call it, TOIA?
TOIA, yeah.
Is it the same regulation?
I don't believe that they're appealable at all, actually, because it's not a planning decision. But
yeah, I'm sorry, the specific plan component is a normal appeal. I'm only asking, I'm not planning to appeal anything, but just so people know, there's no public, for the Crenshaw specific plan, there's sub areas A, B, C, and D. This is in sub area A, is that correct?
It's A, yeah.
And sub area A is not subject to a design review board. There is a specific plan design review board, but they do not include oversight on sub area A. I do not know why, don't know how it was written that way. So there will not be any sort of public hearing. It'll just be a decision. Isaiah may be working on it, but it's a director's decision.
That's
but director's determinations are in fact appealable. It's just often nobody knows they've been issued. So I'm just saying.
Correct.
So one of the things UNNC has been working on in all the neighborhood councils is making sure we do get timely those kinds of decisions and be able to disseminate them just in case. I don't think this one, takes on that kind of thing, but that's, the tip, the thing, the criteria. All right, let's move to the 9th Avenue in Jefferson, please.
All right.
And that's the one you just submitted. So this timeline is way down the road, correct?
Yeah.
This is
because-
also a pretty darn tall building. It is not in the HPOZ. It is in the Mid-City Corridors redevelopment plan. And if you guys go to our agenda packet, I haven't even looked at it, but they
What's
have
that cross street, Laura?
9th Avenue and Jefferson.
Thank
And
you.
it is on the northwest corner where a nursery used to be until recently. So there was no there was a shed here and there, but there wasn't any real buildings. So another vacant lot. And one of the things
That's Harold and Bell's, right? Right across the street.
they're at 10th Avenue. So it's more kitty corner.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
across the street from Julian Construction.
And Sammy's Liquor is on the other corner.
Okay.
Yeah. And then as you go a little west, you hit Harold and Bell's.
Right.
So for anybody gonna live there, they can walk to Harold and Bell's, drink at the bar, and walk on home, no problem. Anyway, it's in the redevelopment plan, and I had mentioned to Kevin earlier today, and he sent it back but what I mentioned was, has the city planning department done the review of its compliance with the redevelopment plan? Because there's a relatively recent California Supreme Court decision published that basically says that LA City Planning, by bringing in the authority over redevelopment plans back in 2019, by transferring the authority for the land use component to the planning department, that means they actually have to do their job in advance and not after the fact. So they're supposed to be reviewing all projects in this front part of the case processing. They had been doing it sort of after the fact, after the public hearings, after the decisions were made, and then they were just signing off on the redevelopment plan. So the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. You have to determine if the project is compliant with the redevelopment plan. And if it is not, then there's certain state laws on housing that do not require the city to approve a housing project if it's not compliant. So that's a little complex, but Kevin did send me Kevin, what was it exactly that you sent me? Because I didn't have a chance to open it up.
Yeah, it was just the redevelopment plan area.
It was a check sheet, right? But it wasn't an actual compliance evaluation, or was it?
Yeah, I mean, the planners go through it and they put comments on it. I guess, yeah, it's more like a check sheet. There's maybe a paragraph of writing. It mostly talked about how it's not a historic structure contributing.
Yeah, because what they're supposed to be doing is maybe a little more. I've used the word robust a couple of times tonight. I think they're supposed to be making their findings at this stage and not after the fact. That's what the decision seemingly was. And the reason is that, gosh, HCA, the Housing Accountability,
Well, the Housing Crisis Act is the HCA.
Thank you. Thank you. Housing Crisis Act actually says, because there was yet a different California Supreme Court hearing ruling that actually says that, a city must give, must give the waivers and incentives that are requested for blah, 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 unless a proposed project is incompatible with the adopted zoning. So these two decisions go hand in glove because redevelopment plans are adopted zoning. So so that's what's supposed to now happen up front and not sort of as an afterthought. I don't know how that affects this one building, to be blunt. I don't know that the language in the Mid-City Corridors redevelopment plan is very specific compared to some other redevelopment plans. But FYI, so the check sheet is up in our agenda packet. Steve, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. So though this building is not in the HPOZ zone, it is immediately adjacent. And my concerns regarding the other building on Jefferson apply to this one as well. The scaling, mass, and height of it are totally incompatible with the neighborhood. The absence of parking will negatively impact the neighborhood. The comments previously made by Colleen, Siobhan, and Marina apply to this as well. And essentially you have this huge structure that's again going to dominate the streetscape of single and two-story buildings and then overwhelm the single-family, single-story houses that are adjacent to it.
Okay. Can we look at the pretty
Yeah, can we-
picture?
Yeah,
Can we look at the
picture?
building again instead of the site? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about open space reduction. There was not a lot of open space reduction compared to some of the projects we've looked at, but what was it, 22% reduction?
It is, yeah, actually, so the way that they design the incentive as an on menu is you can have 10% of your total residential area can be your open space requirement. So we're providing more than that, right? 10% of the total residential area would be like 1566 square feet. We're providing 2225 square feet. 2700 is what's required. I need a calculator, but yeah, it's something like 25.
Are you including the balconies in the calculation of open space, which is where I was?
Yeah, some of them, there's a requirement that they be 6 foot by 8 feet, or no horizontal dimension smaller than 6 feet. Most of that is going to be on the roof deck, though.
Okay, so on the ground, how much open space, if you know?
On the ground floor?
Well, not in the building, around the building, how much open space, if any, is there?
None there. It's since it's mixed use, no residential yards, or no commercial yards rather.
So how do we have trees in a tree poor community when there's no yards at all?
Well, I mean, there are like a couple of these palm trees on the sides there that I think that they could be taken out and replaced with something more substantial. But yeah, there would be spaces on the roof. That's the plan for where the trees would go. But other than that, yeah, you just have the
Kevin, didn't you have a rendering of the site plan that you flashed a moment ago?
A rendering of the site plan.
Yeah, something quick you showed the elevation, and very quickly you showed something else that looked like a site plan or an overview of the site.
I mean, other than this?
One?
Yeah.
Was there something like gardens?
Something prior to this, yeah. It was real quick. It was on the screen for 2 seconds and then you went to something else.
Huh.
And it was this project?
Yes. It was right after you showed that slide. There was something else you showed very quickly.
It wasn't this, was it?
That was it, yes.
Oh, well, that's just it. That's it today. That's not it.
Okay.
That's it today, the vacant lot. Is this, Kevin, is this the one with a street dedication required somewhere?
Yeah, I believe so. I
Can you
think.
blow that up?
Can you say that again?
Can you blow that up just so we can get
Yeah.
perspective? Please.
So that's the nursery that
I see. Okay, I'm sorry.
was there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Well, on this one, since there's a dedication being requested, and I hope it's going to go away, but that's where it's like, please get more trees, bigger canopy in place. But I mean, it's really interesting. Our community, and in particular, this section of Jefferson Park, is facing, I would say, equity challenges as it relates to climate change, we don't have a good tree canopy compared to other parts of town. And it just seems to me, my opinion, not necessarily a UNNC position, but maybe, but my opinion, that the city planning should stop allowing waivers of open space in communities that meet the criteria for tree poor, canopy poor, the environmental injustice compared to other parts of town. It's like they're revising the open space element. It's on our agenda tonight, but I have the answer. They're revising the open space element per state law, and they're doing it through an environmental justice component from the city planning department for this very reason. They're trying to look at South LA and Boyle Heights and places like that. How do we get in more canopies? So it just doesn't make sense to me. And then in terms of the balconies, we are just learning about another one of our projects. Again, not one of your clients' projects, where the balconies were included in open space, but now all of them have the tankless water heaters installed visible on the balconies on Washington Boulevard, right where you could almost, if you're in a wheelchair, hit your head on them when you come through the door out to your balcony, assuming you could even take your wheelchair and turn around once you're on the balcony. And yet that was some of the open space. So I'm hoping that this message I'm giving you goes somewhere. That's all. And no tankless water heaters on those balconies, please.
I hear you. Yeah, that's ugly. I mean, yeah, and I love trees too. I want there to be more of them, and yeah, we'll definitely pass that along and at whatever we can put on the both.
Well, and the other thing that's concerning me about these plans and others is if people don't have cars, and in the future maybe they won't, they will have ride sharing. And nobody's designing in, and maybe that's what we were talking about, the use of the alley, as I say these words out loud, back on 11th Avenue. Where do the rideshare drivers drop off and pick up people? I mean, and maybe that's exactly what we hope the alley could be used for, come to think of it. But it's like, let's think about designs for the future, as Elizabeth had mentioned also, about alternative cooling systems so that we're not just overloading the grid when we turn on our air conditioners, because that's the only way to cool a building. Are there other passive ways that don't ruin the grid, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't need to take an action on this one either, I think, based on the timing, since it's just recently submitted. But what do you think the time frame is on this one? Is it still Isaiah? It's still Isaiah, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a CPIO as well as a redevelopment plan.
Right.
Okay.
I wish I could tell you something more specific. I would be shocked if we got to a hearing for this within 6 months. Probably more like a year, but it's been really hard to predict. Everything's been slower than we've
well, I believe the planning department's going to be working desperately fast on its response for SB 79.
Yeah, and they're also, I mean, they, with the city budget cuts, there's like 70 or 80 unfilled positions at planning that are not getting filled, and so they're stressed. They're stretched.
All right. So anybody else have anything on this? Still looking at the vacant lot, but you know what this is. There. Anybody? All right. Well, it's 8:33 and I'd like to go to item 4 on the agenda, if that is okay with all, and we can stop the share and thank Kevin. Kevin, you're welcome to stay if you like, or leave.
I'm gonna have to take off, but I do appreciate you reaching out and having me here, and yeah.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then this next item, small item 4 here, I'm going to pull it back up on my share screen. This one is interesting. Essentially, Nithya Raman, and I don't remember who the other person was, but there's a citywide motion identifying 12 city-owned small lots that basically they want to do demonstration projects, and they then want to sell those they want to sell the land when after they accept proposals. So they're going to request proposals and qualifications from would-be developers to build projects on these 12 lots. And then once they pick those developers, they're going to sell the land to those developers and then use those proceeds to in turn provide purchase assistance to eligible low and moderate income first-time home buyers on these sites. So this is the first time in decades that the city is contemplating building essentially for sale housing. The CRA had done quite a bit of that in the 70s and early 80s, and then it became not possible to fund those kind of condominium projects. So this is interesting. One of the identified parcels is at 2444 South Crenshaw Boulevard. So that's just south of the 10 freeway on the east side of Crenshaw. And I'm gonna, next to the Rosa Park.
Yeah.
I think it's
Sliver.
Hmm?
It's like a sliver.
Well, it's 16,000 square feet. It's two parcels. That parcel is one parcel, but there's two parcels. It is like a sliver, but more importantly, it's also part of the gateway. And if some of you have been around a long time, might remember that there is an adopted streetscape design, Crenshaw Streetscape Design Program, that starts there, right at that location, and goes south, I think, to Hyde Park. But our section is actually a gateway, and the little, speaking of slivers, the sliver in the middle of the street, that little island, was supposed to be, at some point when there's money, designed with some sort of monument, pointing to Jefferson Park and Leimert Park, in other words, gateway, because this area, it would be, you get off the freeway and it's a gateway to Jefferson Park, Leimert Park, and parts south.
Maybe we just have some trees.
Well, point being, there's an adopted streetscape design element that has to be in place. And in addition, there's just other things that we might be concerned about. So I thought, well, I'd want to make sure, and it's also in the Crenshaw Boulevard specific plan, and it's the last little piece of that. And I fear that what's going to happen if we don't kind of step in rather quickly is that the request for qualifications, the request for proposal, will be generic for all 12 sites and not reflect the needs and desires for particular sites. And so I thought we could do we're not gonna compose it here, but I'd like to have composed it based on whatever bullet points we want to talk about, which might be the ones I just said, for tomorrow night for the board.
So it's a matter of consideration of local concerns and
Well,
local environment.
Yes, and our local concerns and local environment include the Crenshaw Boulevard specific plan, the adopted Crenshaw streetscape plan, and just the broad idea of the gateway, and noting also that this is also the very beginning of the now designated Malcolm X corridor. I mean, so that needs to be incorporated into the streetscape thing that obviously had not anticipated that. But this is all public realm kind of stuff, but it's not the design of a building. It'd be the
Right,
public.
but we're concerned about sensitivity to community environment and community impact, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Are we reckoning it's gonna be one developer for all 12 sites?
Yeah, they're putting out, I'm gonna guess there's 12 developers, but what they're asking for in the, what they're saying in the motion is that they're gonna put out a request for qualifications. And people responding to that should be indicating what site they're interested in, and they can be interested in one site or more than one site, so they can respond. I doubt anyone's gonna respond and say, I wanna do all 12. Who
I
knows?
think it's a great concept in terms of trying to develop things for first-time ownership, right?
Mhm.
Isn't that wonderful that the city is going to engage that with city-owned property? Great. But there are issues of community environment, community concern that should be wrapped up in this process. And so I think what we need here as part of this process of vetting applicants is community consultation. I don't know what
Yes.
would transpire.
Well, I will say that that's the process that was required
Great,
when-
then let's do it again.
when the Washington Boulevard site, that is now where we meet for our governing board, the Gramercy Apartments. The process on that site and also the process on the Pico and Crenshaw site that's on the southwest corner, both of those sites, which were city-owned, required that would-be developers meet with a community, and they would lose points if they did not do so.
That's great.
So that's sort of,
do it.
I would like to repeat that process.
Yes.
But make it now a CIS, a community impact statement that says this is what you should be doing.
Fantastic.
Anybody object? That was easy.
Yeah, I mean, conceptually, I think
That's
this is
semi
strong.
easy, except for that I have to write it by noon tomorrow. But yeah, semi easy.
Do you need us to take an action, Laura?
Well, if somebody wanted to do a motion that says Laura needs to write it by noon, sure.
I would like to
Okay,
move
this
that this
conversation.
committee command that Laura write this by noon tomorrow.
I second that.
You know. Anyway, no, but if we're just, I mean, if you want to be formal, you could do a motion
Well, it's
directly.
just on your agenda.
I know, I understand. But, and we could take a vote.
So let's take a vote.
Okay, so who made the motion to pursue the community impact statement?
Steve Peckman,
Who seconded the motion?
Colleen Davis.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposition? Okay,
Laura,
yes,
I have to abstain.
okay. Oh, understood. You're more than abstaining. Perhaps tomorrow you might have to recuse, is
I
that
thought so.
telling me?
Yes.
So just I'll try and remember that tomorrow, because you might have to like go sit in the
Leave the
other.
room. I understand.
Okay. All right, so just some quick new submittals, updates, discussion. 1638 Bronson Avenue, I don't actually have an full answer as to its status. The council office basically done a memo to the planning department saying that they did not feel that this project qualifies. Well, we had a series of meetings with the planning department, council office, some neighbors, myself, and planners, had a series of meetings. And the final meeting, the council office basically said to the planning department that they did not feel that this project will qualify under the the AB 2334, which is what they're applying under. You'll remember that it was initially submitted as an ED1 project, but it's not qualified for that either, because there are existing RSO rented apartments. So ED1 no longer allows you to demolish existing RSO projects. So they had to seek another thing. But the other avenue, their council office saying they're not qualified for. Meanwhile, they've done a new design. They shared it with me, but I'm not clear they shared it with anybody else. So I'm a little reluctant to even move forward on it. It still doesn't comply with the CPIO. So I don't know where to go with that. I mean, that's my update. It's, you know, it's a nicer design, but it would be a nicer design on Washington Boulevard. But it's still not a nicer design in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So, okay. Hearing nothing, moving on. The open space element I mentioned, we talked about it at a recent meeting. It does turn out that the city is updating the open space element. They will not meet the January 2026 state imposed deadline because they're just restarting community engagement now, and they haven't drafted it. But it is being done through the rubric, or was being done through the rubric of the environmental justice section, which you may know was disbanded because of the budget cuts. So there's still somebody in charge, but I don't quite know, and only got a half answer. So the half answer I got was that, yes, we're doing it. And I was given the name from Michelle Levy, Teresa, given the contact people now, but they sent me to a web page that gave me a calendar, and what the calendar says is that they're restarting community engagement. So I've written back saying, how do we get engaged? Because we're all very interested in it, and that in fact UNNC is itself taking the baby steps towards for UNNC, a green master plan, and it is going to overlap 4 committees. Primarily, the Caesar is taking more charge of it through the Recreation and Parks Committee, but it's going to Teresa at Trees and Elizabeth and Environmental and us here at Planning and Zoning. We don't really know what we're doing yet, but clearly would like to know more about the open space plan, which includes all those same topics: biodiversity, native plants, tree canopy, parks and recreation, greening alleys, blah, 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 blah. So that's my update on that. I just don't know how it's going to proceed quickly enough with a section that doesn't exist anymore. We have received plans for and an application for 2630 Crenshaw, which is a new location for the existing pawn shop south of Adams on the west side of the street. And they bought the building that Chef Maryland's is in. I want to move into the building they now own on the east side of the street. So this is a conditional use kind of application, and we'll look at that in the future. But some of you may have seen that on the early notification system. So that's
they've already started demolition, Laura. Did you know that?
On the west side.
The used to be a bar.
The living room closed after 22 years. They already closed.
Yeah,
they've closed that out and moved out. I saw them doing demo there last week.
Well, it's interesting. So the living room was mentioned in their application, but the address is the next building north.
The address that 30 is the parking lot. I think they purposely listed the parking lot address so that it doesn't conflict with Chef
So it may not be the Chef Maryland building. You're saying it's the living room building?
The address that you listed on the agenda is the parking lot next door.
Okay. Again, so it may not be the Chef Maryland building. It may be the
I'm
liquor
assuming it's
store.
one big complex. I just think they're trying to keep that address off there.
Got it. Okay. Well, here's my point. I don't know the future of this one, but the application is very thorough about who they are, how they've been there a very long time. They're just moving across the street, and it feels like, and they bought the building. That's essentially what it says. So, we want to move our operation into a building we own, but we've been across the street for decades. So, so that's the gist of the application. So we will need to hear from them is what I'm trying to say. It's just not tonight. I just wanted to give you status updates.
And Sheriff
Uh,
Maryland is
Laura,
trying to buy the
shouldn't that
building back.
Shouldn't
Okay,
that require change of use? And a
Okay, yeah, it requires a whole lot of stuff.
okay,
I mean, pawn shops, they're, police oversee
Right,
them. Yeah,
right.
no, it requires a whole lot of stuff. And we'll need to get
If it's
I
a
mean,
conditional use, won't they require a public hearing?
yeah, it's gonna
Okay.
require a whole lot of stuff, but honestly, unless there's a bad operation, meaning they're saying they're a good operation, I don't know.
They would.
And they would, yes, it's true. But unless they are a bad operation and the police come in and say they suck, it would seem to me that they're going to be approved to move directly across the street. It's not a different community. And what we'll be looking at is what conditions we would want to be imposed, because it would not seem that the city is going to turn it down unless the police department would be inclined to turn it down.
So not a different community, I understand what you're saying, but a different neighborhood council, yeah?
Correct.
So that's a little bit tricky because.
Well, it's
we
a
would
share,
not-
but we share Crenshaw, we think.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if this is now gonna be in our neighborhood council, we would not necessarily easily reach the folks who are living behind that pawn shop. As someone who lives behind a pawn shop, I'm familiar with some of the issues that come.
Okay, I understand that.
So we wouldn't necessarily know, our stakeholders would not necessarily be aware of the same issues that the folks, so it would just be nice to maybe collaborate with the other
Yeah,
neighborhood.
and we've done that in the past.
Yeah, that's what
And
I'm
I know those people, I mean, sort of, because they've had some transition in leadership. But yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, this is a preview, not even a preview. This is gonna,
So we have time
we
to
definitely
make
have
that kind of
time.
outreach.
Absolutely.
Hands
And that
across.
pawn shop did just have a large fire. They just finished
Well,
rebuilding.
that's not good.
Yeah,
Like, the pawn shop itself had the fire?
yep, they just finished rebuilding about 6 months ago.
Huh. But isn't it about to be demolished to be part of that? Okay, we looked at it briefly. Isn't there a healthcare center moving in?
I think
Oh, that I
that's
don't know. That I don't know. I just know they had the whole front part of the building got
Yes,
a major
Saban.
fire.
Yeah, Saban. So I think that includes the pawn shop, right?
Is that part of the barbecue?
The barbecue. Yeah, I
Right.
think it's more than one parcel.
Oh,
And
I
again,
just,
Not the gas station.
Also.
oh, of
Okay.
course not the gas station.
No, not the gas station. All right, anybody else have any follow-up to previous cases? ENS, full business? Have I killed enough cases? Teresa?
Thank you, Laura. I just spoke with Hunter and emailed Ann Zoomwinkle. You have not provided them our letter on SB 79.
I have to.
No,
I
you
have-
have not. I just got email
Okay.
and text from them that they have not received it, which also I'd like to say the 2 CISs that I have had approved by the board have not been uploaded to that
So
site.
you're-
And one of them, let me finish, please. And
Yes, I
one of
guess
them-
so, Teresa. How
One
nice
of them,
of
I'm
you.
sorry, Laura, it is my time to speak.
Is
And
it?
one of them was not even uploaded to the council file. So
Okay.
I'm asking you
Uh-huh.
to please email Hunter and email
I
Ann
have
and ask
that.
them to place that letter on the UNNC site. And regarding both of them have already
I did send
heard
it to
by the
her.
council file. I'm not talking about Shade LA. I'm talking about the 2 other one. They've already been heard, but I am still disappointed. And I know that you work a full-time job, you chair planning and zoning, you are the president, way too many things on your plate, and not a lot of people are stepping up on the board, but you have taken on that responsibility. And when we have a area on our website available to the community so they know what we're doing, we have to have a process for our documentation to be listed.
Isn't the
So-
process, Teresa, in addition to me sending it to Hunter, even if he has forgotten, that we put it in the officer's Google Drive in that
However
folder?
you guys want to do it. I
Which is
just
what I
want
have
it to be
also
uploaded
done.
to, this has been going on since July. And it's unnecessary. It is unnecessary. There's a reason why we even have that file now, and it's because of Steve Heckman's desire for the community to have a repository for UNNC outreach letters. And we're not using it effectively. So
Correct.
I will be mentioning this tomorrow at the governing board. I'm very disappointed that my letters, you know, not too many people on UNNC even do CISs. It is a way for us to be able to speak at city council hearings, and you know I attend those. Now, luckily, I haven't had to go and argue because most of these things are being supported. But they need to be on our site, and they need to be uploaded to the council file. That's all I have to say.
Well, on that note, Teresa, because I'm so fond of you, not just reaming me out, but everyone else you can think of, I guess we will adjourn the meeting. And do not think that you actually get the same kind of forum tomorrow night. Thank you. And the meeting is adjourned.